Not every horror story needs loud jump scares to leave us on edge. Sometimes what truly haunts us lies between the lines, in the details no one explains, in the silences that carry a weight hard to ignore. There are places that seem frozen in the past, filled with secrets people avoid mentioning, and moments when loneliness forces us to see what we'd rather pretend isn't there. The stories you're about to hear today are like that. Since you're here, how about letting me keep you company while you go about your day? You might be tidying up the house, preparing something to eat, or just unwinding a bit, disconnecting from your worries. If you can, grab your favorite headphones, make a warm tea or the drink you enjoy most, and let's dive into today's episode. Before we start, I want to thank each and every one of you who's here with me now from the bottom of my heart. This is just the beginning of a project I'm pouring my dedication into to bring you the very best. Thank you, truly, from my soul. Let's get to the first story. Good evening, Skravelt. My name is Camilla. I never thought I'd write so much about this, but lately I've felt the need to let out what I went through about 6 years ago. I was 13 when my mom passed away suddenly. It was a blow that left a huge void in me, a pain I still carry. With no other relatives nearby and nowhere else to go, I was sent to the house of a distant uncle in the countryside of Minas Gerais. I barely knew him, but I pinned all my hopes on him for a home because I had no other choice. His name was Eustachio. I still remember arriving, stepping off a rickety bus onto a dirt road, clutching my suitcase, staring at a place that felt forgotten by the world. The house was far off, and I had to walk a good stretch. I tried to convince myself it'd work out. They were family after all. But a strange feeling tightened my chest. The house was big, but neglected, as if time had stopped there. The small windows barely let light in, and the cracks on the walls looked like gray scars. Stepping onto the porch, I felt a chill I couldn't explain, like a warning I didn't know how to read. I knocked, and the door creaked loudly as it opened. My uncle was there, but showed no warmth. He didn't ask how I was or offer water, just said, "Come in." The inside smelled strongly of mold, the air heavy. The furniture was old, dark wood, and everything felt stuck in the past. A broken pendulum clock added to the sense that time didn't move there. The house gave me goosebumps, but I had no choice but to stay. My Aunt Neusa was in a worn armchair, facing away. I tried greeting her, but she barely mumbled a hi. I wasn't sure I even heard. Her kids, my cousins, stared at me from the kitchen like I was an intruder. No one came closer or tried to welcome me. Right then, I missed my mom even more. She was always affectionate, and I swallowed my tears, clinging to the hope that things would get better with time. My uncle led me through dim hallways, past locked doors I didn't dare ask about. The house was a maze of rooms and dusty portraits on the walls, serious faces I could hardly make out. The floor creaked with every step, echoing in the silence. We reached a narrow wooden staircase. He grumbled that there was nowhere else for me and nodded upward. I climbed, too ashamed to complain. Each step groaned loudly, and the smell of mold mixed with dust grew stronger. At the top, a flickering bulb cast twisted shadows. I opened the door and saw a filthy space. Stacked boxes, broken furniture, spider webs. In a corner, a stained, smelly mattress with a thin, spotted blanket. That was it. I wondered what I'd done to deserve this. It wasn't my fault I'd lost my mom or had nowhere else to go. I wanted to march downstairs and demand something better. But my uncle's cold stare and the family's hostility stopped me. I sat on the mattress, pretending I'd figure it out. But as soon as I sat, I felt like I wasn't alone. I looked around, just dust and boxes. My heart raced, but I told myself it was my imagination. That first night was awful. Every sound woke me in a panic. Wind slipped through a crack, making a noise like a moan. Sometimes I heard footsteps downstairs, unsure if they were real or just fear. I only slept from exhaustion near dawn, missing my mom. The next day, I went down early. My uncle was drinking coffee in the kitchen, my cousins eating bread, and my aunt washing dishes without glancing at me. I said, "Good morning," but got only grunts. The mood was heavy, like I was a burden. My uncle pointed at some bread and said, "Take it if you want." I noticed it was scarce, while my cousins ate plenty, but I stayed quiet. Then he ordered me to help in the kitchen, sweep the yard, and tidy the tool shed like I was a servant. I spent the day following orders. While washing dishes, I felt my aunt watching me with a hard look. My cousins would show up, grab something, and leave laughing, as if mocking me. The yard had a mossy stone wall, and the shed was full of old junk. My uncle watched from afar, always disapproving. At night, after a simple, rationed dinner, he said sharply, "Go upstairs and stay there. We don't want anyone wandering around at this hour." I felt anger and humiliation, but fear held me back. I went up. The attic seemed darker. I propped a shaky chair against the door, not just because of the family, but because that strange feeling returned. In the middle of the night, the noises came back. Creaks, footsteps, whispers. It sounded like someone saying my name, distorted. I froze, but there was no escape. I slept near dawn, drained. Days dragged on, heavy chores, hostile glares, short answers. Once I complained about the cold shower, and they snapped. "Your problem, fix it." I felt less than nothing, wanting to run, but with nowhere to go. Then, while cleaning the attic, I found an old notebook. On the cover, in handwriting, "Clarice." My heart pounded. I dreamed of a girl whispering that name. The pages spoke of nighttime noises being watched, a fear that wouldn't fade. It seemed She'd been forced to stay there too. Who was she? Why didn't anyone mention her? Did my uncle know? Days crawled by, and I tried not to draw attention, but I caught my aunt staring sometimes with what looked like guilt. One day, I overheard my cousins outside. She can't find out, and if she knew, she'd run. I froze. Find out what? One night, I found a yellowed newspaper clipping in the attic. It said Clarice Fernandez de Souza died there, mysteriously. The police investigated, but found nothing. I also found kids' clothes, broken dolls, old photos. The bulb flickered more, and I swore I saw shadows. I was terrified, scared I'd end up like her. One night, I heard a child's "help me" near the door. I whispered, "Clarice." Silence. I felt something brush my shoulder, but no one was there. One day, I found an unlocked office. In a drawer, papers, Clarice's death certificate, and a note. She didn't make it. We didn't tell anyone. Was my family involved? In the attic, the notebook said Clarice tried to escape, but felt trapped by the place. Then my uncle burst in, furious. "What are you digging into? Why'd you ask Noosa about Clarice?" He grabbed me, yelling I knew too much, locked me in, and left. I banged on the door, begged, but no one came. I heard a cousin whisper, "If you tell, you'll end like her." The next night, I stacked boxes, pried open the attic window, and crawled out, scraping myself on nails. I fell into the yard, twisted my ankle, but climbed the mossy wall and ran to a shack. An elderly couple helped me, and the police took me to a shelter. I don't know what happened to my uncle after, just that Clarice's case stayed unsolved. To this day, I feel her with me in that attic in my nightmares, calling for help. I'm writing this to try to shed this weight, but sometimes, in the dark, I hear, "Help me," again. I hope Clarice finds peace, and me too. Some wounds never heal. Before the next story, if you're new here, subscribe and hit the bell. Your presence keeps me going. Good evening, Skravelt. My name is Danilo. I'm 27 and need to share something that's choking me. My wife, Bianca, and I have lived in Santos, Sao Paulo for 2 years since we got married. I'd always heard weird stories, but never thought I'd live one. The last few months turned into a nightmare we can't explain. I wrote down every detail to make sense of it, and now I'm sharing it here, maybe to ease the burden or warn someone. It started slowly. We wanted to open a small diner. I'm an administrative assistant. She's a hairdresser, and we saved every penny. My cousin Mario, ambitious but seemingly nice, offered help with contacts and cash. We accepted, excited. I regret it bitterly now. We were about to rent a spot when the landlord backed out, saying he'd heard odd things about us. Then rumors hit. Bianca was dishonest. I was drowning in debt. They were too specific, like someone close was, spreading them I tried defending us, but no one listened. Stress cracked me and Bianca. Her clients vanished. The spot we wanted shut us out. I suspected Mario, who disappeared right when it all fell apart. I tracked him down, but his mom, Aunt Denise, said he wasn't home, though his car was parked out front. Another cousin of his spread worse lies. We'd scammed people, owed loan sharks. Bianca started fainting at the salon, and clients pulled away. We thought of envy, even curses. She suggested a healer. I was skeptical, but desperate. The woman spoke of blocked energies and beware fake friends. Bianca dreamed of a hooded figure. A friend, Davi, warned me Mario called me dangerous. I missed a meeting to save our dream because Bianca saw shadows at home. Back home, I found a package in the mailbox. A broken clay doll, reeking. Bianca got sick instantly. Her salon fired her for low clientele. We saw a spiritualist. He sensed negative weight from family. Back home, we found break-in signs. A dirty red cloth on the floor. The police didn't care. I got an anonymous text. Stop or it gets worse. Confronting Mario, he was vague but threatening. We fled to an uncle's house in the countryside with what little we had left. I don't know if Mario dabbled beyond gossip, but his cold stare haunts me. Watch who's near you. If you like this, leave a like. It means a lot.